Hi everyone, welcome back to Kristen's Epic Adventures. I'm Kristen, and today we're talking about the differences between running a published campaign and writing your own homebrew. So for more Dungeons & Dragons and role-playing content like this, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when our new videos are posted. Welcome back everyone. Today we're talking about the differences between running a published campaign or writing your own homebrew, as we call it. There's a lot of differences between the two. We're going to go over some of those, but I want you to know there is no right or wrong way to play Dungeons & Dragons. It can be whatever you want it to be. So neither of these methods are right or wrong. They're just different. You should do whatever is comfortable to you and whatever your group is interested in playing. That's the great thing about Dungeons & Dragons is there's so many different opportunities. It's so customizable. It can be really anything you want it to be, and the opportunities are limitless, honestly. So let's dive right into first running a published campaign. So there's a lot of different places you can get published campaigns. There are campaigns that you can buy from Dungeons & Dragons, from Wizards of the Coast, the publisher. There are also a lot of third-party campaigns and adventures out there as well. There's some that you can buy online. You have websites that you can order stuff and download things from, whether it's the Dungeon Masters Guild or Drive-Thru RPG, things like that. And you have a lot of variation in your budget there. The published adventures from Dungeons & Dragons, most of the books tend to run around $50 if you go get it at your local game store. Sometimes online you can find them less expensive, but I always suggest supporting your local game store first. Some of the online adventures you can buy from, like I said, Dungeon Masters Guild or Drive-Thru RPG. A lot of those you're just getting a PDF, or sometimes you can actually order a printed copy, but bear in mind it's going to take a little bit longer because they're usually printed on demand. They don't have like a warehouse full of these books that they can just grab you one and ship it right over. A lot of times once someone orders one, then it gets printed and then it gets shipped. So it can take a little longer, whereas a download of a PDF you're just going to get immediately. And the prices for those can run anywhere from, I don't know, $20 for one that gets some really good reviews, maybe, down to completely free. There's a lot of ones that you can download for free and ones that even say pay what you want. And they let the consumer decide what they think that adventure is worth and decide what to pay the artist. So there's a lot of different sources out there to get Dungeons & Dragons adventures to play. Don't think you just have to go with the stuff that comes from the company. Now, one of the really important things about these is that the creative work is pretty much already done. This kind of comes down to like how much time you have and how creative you want to be. These are really compelling stories already often made by professional writers where this is their job, or their profession, to write compelling stories. A lot of times they have a lot of experience. They've been doing this for a long time. And again, the creative work is already done. So if you're not really into creativity, you just want to play the game, or you're not feeling especially creative right now, it's fine, absolutely fine to just purchase an adventure. This is mostly what I do. I haven't written any homebrew or anything to play. So it saves you a lot of time too, because sitting down to write a lot of homebrew, depending on how detailed you want it to be, can be very time consuming. So that's a big time saver. And there's a lot less prep work, I think anyway. You still want to prep in sense of reading through an adventure, maybe gathering up your maps and minis if you're going to go that way, or you can just totally do theater of the mind, but it takes a lot more work, especially like between sessions. You may need to write some new content as to where the party said they were going to go, whereas a published campaign, they maybe have a few options of where to go, and all you need to do is make sure you read up on it and familiarize yourself with what's going on next in the adventure. Published campaigns, you can also get a lot of community input online. You may be wondering, man, there's so many different adventures out there. I'm not really sure which one would be best for our group. And you can go online and get people's opinions. You can read reviews. You can just ask people, some basic questions. How did your party do with the Curse of Strahd? Or did you really like Tomb of Annihilation? Or, I have a bunch of people who have never played before. Which adventure would be best? And you can get a lot of feedback because these are published adventures that are already out. Other people have run them numerous times, and you can get like other people's input, which is pretty helpful too. Now, one of the downsides, like I said, would be having to pay for the books. Again, if you're doing the hardcover books from the Dungeons & Dragons, they can start to be a little pricey. But again, it depends on what your budget allows, because if you don't want to pay $50 from the game store for a brand new adventure book, you can certainly, like I said, utilize one of those online resources and get something a lot less expensive that works for your group as well. Maybe, $10, $5, pay what you want, free, anything like that. So don't ever let budget hold you back from playing something that you want to play. Now you can use a published campaign as a base, and you can modify it as much as you want. So don't feel like you have absolutely no creativity at all just because you don't have the time or want to go through writing an entire homebrew yourself. You can certainly take a published adventure and tweak it. Maybe you say, okay, well, let's take out these two monsters in this encounter, and I'm going to change them to these kind of monsters instead, and just change the story a little bit so that fits in a little better. I think that sounds really cool. You can certainly do that with any of these published adventures. So it's kind of how much creativity and time you want to put into modifying it, but you can certainly 100% modify them. You can take other little mini adventures or one-shots, which is an adventure that can be done in like one sitting in like 3-4 hours, and you can drop it into the middle of another campaign and just kind of modify it a little bit so it fits with the story. And you have the advantage of maps already being done. Most of the time, these pre-published adventures are going to come with some kind of maps. So you'll have the advantage of already having that done, having maps available where you don't actually have to draw your own. So that's kind of my rundown on a published campaign and adventures that you can purchase or find for free online. So let's go over a little bit of what writing your own homebrew entails. Now, like I said, I have not personally written some homebrew yet. I'd like to try. I know it's very time consuming. I love the creativity part of it. I'm really into that. It's the time constraint that probably is holding me back a little bit. But I have some vacation coming up soon, so maybe I'll give it a shot. Anyway, now homebrew, though, is going to give you full creative control. You can fully customize anything you want, and you can make it as vague or as detailed as you want. If you just want to write a short little adventure and the players don't need to know that much info about what's going on, it can be as immersive as you want. Maybe you want to make an entire world where you have a continent with cities and towns and villages and mountains and forests and all different encounters all over the place. And you want to draw the maps and everything, and you come up with the nation's political system and currency and their trade systems and everything like that. If you want all that creativity, go for it. You can totally do that. That's definitely something that you can do. And there's a lot of good resources in both the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide to help you out with those things. There's random tables, so you could just roll dice and make everything pretty random and then come up with a story of how it all goes together. Or you can come up with everything completely on your own. Totally up to you. So the good part is there's no further cost really past the core rule books. In all honesty, if you wanted to download the free rules and then come up with your own little campaign, it's probably doable. But it would definitely save a lot of money if you're just writing your own. Unless you want to start getting into also building the terrain that goes with your adventure, that might be a cost there. But honestly, there's not really any further cost past those core rule books if you don't want. But it's always an option if you want it to be. It is also, though, very time consuming depending on how detailed your world is going to be. Like I said, are you going to go into depth on political systems and trade routes and, everything? Or are you maybe going to write a one-shot or maybe a campaign that only takes 2 or 3 sessions and you don't really have all that background information, which is completely fine. So, but it's going to take a lot more time than just using a published campaign. So be prepared. It can also be a lot of work, but it might be something that you don't really consider work because you find it to be so much fun. You're also looking at probably having to make the maps yourself. If you're going to provide maps, remember, Theater of the Mind video versus Maps and Minis, you don't have to. You certainly don't have to. You can do everything Theater of the Mind. You don't have to make any maps. But if you would like some maps and you've homebrewed your campaign, you're also going to be making your maps yourself. Lastly, I want to say too that you're also going to end up having to not only write the story, but create the encounters for the characters as well. Now, there is information in the Dungeon Masters Guild on how to come up with balanced encounters, kind of comparing how many people are in your party, what level they are, and what challenge rating monsters would be easy, medium, or difficult. So there's all sorts of information on that too, but bear in mind, not only are you going to be coming up with the role-playing story, but you're also going to be coming up with the encounters. Maybe you even want to make little encounter tables where you can have some variety and do some rolls to see what types of encounters your players come across, whether they're in the mountains or in the forest or at the coast, things like that. So that's kind of my overview here to give you a little bit of a difference between homebrew versus running a published campaign. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you leave a comment down below and let me know. Are you writing some homebrew? Have you played your homebrew? Do you just stick to the published things? I want to know. I want to hear from you guys and hear what you think. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button for me and give us a thumbs up. And for more Dungeons & Dragons and role-playing content just like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you know when new videos are posted. Thanks. Bye, guys.